Hey everybody, welcome to Ask the Anabolic Doc, starring Dr. Thomas O'Connor, brought to you by his websites, anabolicdoc.com and metabolicdoc.com, where you can get the new book, America on Steroids, A Time to Heal. Great read, very informative. I got through it in just a week of sitting at my kitchen table eating meals, so you should be able to also. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Ron. Very excited to be back. Welcome back from the Arnold.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, big show, good show. Good to be back, though. Always good to be home. So you had a question that you had received, on your own social media, whatever. So let's start with that. And then, as usual, the MD Forum No Bull members, anytime I ask for questions for you, within a few hours, I have a whole good smattering of questions to choose from. So let's start with yours, shall we?
That is awesome. Please keep them going, guys. We're having a lot of fun. We're just enjoying this. It seems like some of the same stuff. I don't get criticized for it, but it's the same stuff over and over. But it's the cardiac, it's the heart, I guess, and that's pretty much what I do. So this question relates to that. It's a question from I've seen a few times. A guy asked, Doc, for people that are hypertensive, how can they use creatine? That was a good question. So the basic medical science on this is, so creatine monohydrate, right, Ron? That goes back for 20, 30 years now.
Yep.
And it's basically if it's basically an anabolic muscle store. It's basically part of the muscle cell itself. And then when the muscle breaks down, there's a metabolite called creatinine.
Yeah.
So if you look in the comprehensive metabolic, or if you look for on these lab tests, you don't see creatine, you see creatinine.
Right.
So that's what it is, and so this is getting to the question is, so when we look on these lab tests all day long, I probably saw like 10 or 15 today, we're looking for the basic metabolic function of the kidney, and we use creatinine, we use it indirectly to see how the kidney is filtering. It's called an estimated glomerular filtration rate, estimated little eGFR. And that just you have a certain amount of this stuff in the skeletal muscle, and it breaks down and kind of leaches out on a regular basis, typically, and that's how we estimate the function. So going back, we realized even 50 years ago that you could take this stuff. It's a salt, really. It's kind of a low-grade salt. It's a salt type. It's not really like a sodium chloride salt where you can take it and actually will go into your system and actually can get into the muscles, and it can actually be used. And the studies have shown, from regular people that are young to elderly, it increases strength and muscle mass just a little bit.
Okay.
So that's why you see in the supplements that it actually really does work. And then the questions came out over years. It can increase some increase in water retention. And then not to mention hurt the stomach, with the GI. That's why they've changed the formulations over the years.
Yeah.
The supplement companies. So it can lead to a little bit of hypertension. So the question really is...
Let me stop you right there, because I always thought, and maybe I've been mistaken all these years, I always thought the water retention was inside the muscle cells, so therefore it wouldn't have a negative impact on, the same, like edema. I didn't think it was...
It is true. So there, Ryan, I love this. So intracellular water is what muscles are made of mainly. So it actually does increase that, but there is some extracellular. There is some. There can be. And
okay.
But the studies show that really doesn't happen that much. And the bottom line question, what's hard for me to give a bottom line question is, it is safe, but it can, for some patients, lead to an increase, a little bit of some hypertension. But most studies show that it is safe. So it is safe for hypertensives. But here's the funny thing. If you have a patient, and so many doctors know this, if you have a patient on taking creatine,
yes,
and then they go to the lab, Ron, and they look at it, your creatinine levels are going to be increased.
Right.
It's so funny, Ron, and it's substantially, and this scares everyone, even me. So you have to make a determinant. Is your creatinine, for an example, 1.5 or 6, and does that look like you have actually kidney failure? You're going into kidney. If your creatinine's over 2 or 3 or 4, yeah. We do see, and you got kidney problems, and if then you have to take the family history and look at the history and actually, go to a nephrologist. But when you look at that, when you have guys stop creatine for a couple, it's usually like 2 or 3 days is all you need to do. It washes out, and then you see that those levels go back to normal. So that's actually very reassuring. So
Okay.
Creatine is a great supplement, Ron.
Yeah.
If you're hypertensive, it probably won't hurt. There's the answer. So, but there are some patients though, and this I've asked these questions to real board certified nephrologists.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff they came out with. It's safe. It actually is, it doesn't hurt your kidneys, but it looks like on paper that your kidneys are not functioning because it's the machine is picking up the increase of this metabolite, and it looks like it's your muscle, therefore your kidney's not functioning. But the truth is, it's not. It's a supplement.
Right.
So it's not. So it doesn't hurt. It does not hurt the kidney.
Okay.
That's good. So that's a great question.
I mean, just as a footnote, I would assume that if it led to kidney damage on a widespread scale, it would have been, shut down for sale by the FDA many years ago.
Ron, that's a great point. Matter of fact, not long ago, I was looking at some. I have a med student, and we were looking at this. That was one of his first questions, and I said, "Well, get the research up for us." And I tell you, this is underutilized. Elderly people that have sarcopenia.
Yeah.
As you get older, you shrink and you lose muscle. Forget steroids and TRT. Yeah. Sorry, Ron.
Damn it.
I mean, so that's the truth. So elderly people, there's been many studies showing that it's gerontological studies that they really should, they should supplement with this more.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it's actually one of the real supplements that really work.
Yeah, I mean, I've always told people that when I get hit up for what supplement should I take, and there's so many to choose from, and it's one of the few that there's, I don't know how many studies. I'm guessing thousands peer-reviewed studies, because I believe they started studying this in the early '80s.
Yes.
So it's got a long solid history.
The only problem is, Ron, diarrhea, right?
Well, if you're constipated, diarrhea is not a problem.
When you're squatting, I mean, you're squatting heavy weight. I mean, it's interesting. Powerlifters, you put the diaper on, right, guys? Put the diaper on.
I mean, bodybuilding, we don't have that issue so much. We're not squatting that heavy typically.
It is funny.
You probably know the powerlifting scene. It's a little more common.
It's crazy.
First question comes from Supbro, SUPBRO, exclamation point. Doc, I'm on TRT of 200 mg sip weekly on cabergoline 2 times weekly. I recently added 80 milligrams of Anavar daily for 4 weeks, and my cholesterol skyrocketed. I read that Anavar does this, but my doctor prescribed me Lipitor to lower it. I haven't taken it as I've dropped the Anavar as planned. Any suggestions? Thanks in advance.
So good question. Let's go into the details. So testosterone TRT, 200 milligrams a week, a little on the high dose. Sometimes you like to break it down a little bit, but it's close to TRT. Carbergoline.
Yeah.
That, you know what that's for, Ron? That's a drug that's used. That's prolactin.
Okay.
So guys use it for sex because usually it's the NOR19 drugs. I'm less of a bro scientist this day, so guys that don't hang me up on the exact stuff, because I read more medical stuff these days and steroids and tests and what it does to the body. But carbergoline is one of these drugs that they use for limiting prolactin. And at the end of the day, the NOR19 drugs and the way the body converts with estrogens and progestins and prolactin, in the end, it affects sex.
Yeah.
So hyperprolactin states, and they use this drug, and these drugs are like dopaminergic drugs in essence for CNS diseases and Parkinson's. It's very interesting. And then they use that, like that's classic, pretty complicated bro science, and it has side effects of like hypotension, and again, it can cause, and it's if you see the side effects profiles, it's like hypersexuality. Who doesn't want to be hypersexual? So they use it for that. So that's interesting. So carbergoline itself can affect the blood pressure, but that's kind of esoteric. And he's not gonna live on carbergoline for twice a week. And most guys end up not doing that. And they measure prolactin, and it goes up and down. And at the end of the day, it's like, what are you doing this for? So usually it's with post-cycle therapy and when you're doing other types of steroids that can affect prolactin. Anyway,
yeah.
So 80 milligrams of Anavar, as we all know, that's a max. That's an oral steroid. Yeah. That's a max. That's pretty much a max dose, Anavar 80, right?
That's a lot of that. That's very expensive to take 80 milligrams of genuine Anavar a day.
Yes, it's like $1 or $2 for a 10 milligram tablet or something, right?
If you're lucky.
So that's an amazing. That's why I love the show. We're bringing together like the underground to like the above ground medical, and like that's it's, and I know that it's very expensive to make Anavar. Why would Anavar be expensive this day and age?
Greed.
I mean, but like, is it much? I mean, I'm not a scientist, I guess. I'm not a pharmacist, and the reagents. It must be more difficult to make, I guess, versus the Anadrol.
What I've been told from from the little underground black market world is that the raw powder for Anavar is a lot more expensive than the raw powder for an Anadrol or a Dianabol, because it's always been that way. Those, the D-bol and the Anadrol has always been a lot cheaper, and Anavar has always been much, much more expensive.
Isn't it fun? But with all this, with the markets so big in Asia, you just think they would just make so much in the supply-demand economic, but who cares? Interesting. Yeah. So he's on test. He's on like TRT text, the carbergeline, and then he's on 80 milligrams of an oral steroid, which, this is that level. Even 10 or 20 milligrams, I see guys coming all the time, and the HDL is going to go. This is the common stuff. HDL goes down. LDL can go up. A lot of genetics play a role. A lot of what they're eating plays a role. I mean, I have had a bunch of the model, the physique, and I call the model guys come in, and they use like little baby doses of Winstrol and Anavar and stuff. And they don't want any puffiness, so they don't want D-bol and Anadrol. Sure. They're even really careful with testosterone. So, but they use testosterone in baby doses anyway. They call, which is like TRT doses, because they their sex drive is going to get affected, but they don't want to hit the hair, right? They don't want to affect the hair, so they use a lot of this. So I have a lot of experience with this, and it's interesting for depending on the genetics of the man and how much Anavar we think is Anavar could actually, in the end, be D-bol.
Right.
But that's we know is true. But in the end, like you see these as HDL. It's like, hey doc, it's kind of like the human growth hormone. Doc, I know it's real. I can't feel my hands. So doc, I know I have real Anavar because I'm using a little bit, and my HDL looks like crap. So it is interesting. And then obviously you get off and it goes away. So this guy, the interesting piece and the take-home message from this is a very special take-home message. So the guy put him on Lipitor. The doc doesn't realize that he's on an oral steroid that is potentially dangerous and toxic to his liver, correct?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's giving him another potentially dangerous drug called a statin. We would never, this is a great learning point. I love this question. And I might not be answering the question he wants, but I'll answer that in the end. Yeah. If he's not being honest with his doctor, and if his doctor knew he was on an oral agent, and if his doctor checked his liver function on if it's real Anavar, his LFTs, his transaminases are going to be through the freaking roof, bro. So, and he would never, no doctor is going to start Lipitor or any statin on a man or a woman that has elevated transaminases. It's a contraindication. It's one of the reasons why you cannot start a liver stressing drug like a statin. Allow the liver enzymes to go up a little bit, because if it doesn't go up typically over 300% up the upper limit normal, I mean 300%, we let those ALT and ASTs go up, because if one woman is, in my mind, years back, she had genetics where she had a heart attack, she had to be on a big dose of atorvastatin, and her liver enzymes were always elevated, like she was on Anavar. And you know what? We didn't mind, because her liver function was okay, but we knew that we had to ride it out. And we let her, so we allow them, but would you ever give a person on that much Anavar a protective drug for the cholesterol? Because the cholesterol at that moment doesn't matter.
Right.
So the answer to this guy's question is, the suggestion would be, I can't tell you what, but you see all the disclaimers running on the disclaimers.
Yes.
You got to be honest with your doc. You got to, it's interesting. I've always struggled with this. Men have bad cholesterol. They're worsening it with steroids, in intermuscular and oral. Do I give them Crestor, my drug of choice, or even Lipitor as they're doing it? I always struggle when they're my patients. I'm very careful, and my patients all know this, because if they're on orals, I don't want to add a statin. So I try to get them off the orals, put them on TRT, And then there's no worries with intermuscular esters and the liver, as you know. And then I could go for using an oral statin, and then I watch the LFTs then. How do you like that? So the answer for this question is, sir, you should go to your doctor and you should check your liver enzymes. I mean, I'm not saying it would be cool to see how high your liver enzymes are on a dual toxic regimen of a statin we know is liver toxic,
Yep.
on top of Anavar or D-bol or Anadrol, but it's Anavar, 80 milligrams. So the dose, the question is, please just be careful.
Okay. I contributed a question this week, and it's about being honest with your doctor or not being honest with your doctor in this case. So my question is, I know many current and former gear users are reluctant to admit their use to their doctors for fear that their doctor will report said use to their health insurance provider. Yep. In turn, they worry this AAS use will be considered a pre-existing condition, and just about any health issue that they may have will be denied coverage. So how right or wrong, how off base am I with that assumption?
Ron, this is a great question. I get this question all the time. Guys don't want to come to me because of this.
Right.
Guys, less and less. I mean, Ron, I've been the Anabolic Doc since 2009.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this has been a long time. They came in. That's why I became the Metabolic Doc, because a guy called up and goes, Doc, he told my front staff, I'm going to join. I'll be getting on the plane tomorrow, but I can't come and see the Anabolic Doc. Ron, so my partner at the time came in. I told you the story, and we go like this. Metabolic Doc.
Sure.
So I'm anabolic and metabolicdoc.com. So it's just so sad to say. So the truth is, guys worry about it. Ron, I take care of a lot of people. I'm in network with insurance companies. Guys get patients I take care of. When they when they redo their insurance for disability or life insurance, you undergo underwriting.
Right.
So you're right. So, and if they don't, what does the underwriter look for? They look for blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking status, disease like mental health disease, not to mention take your gun away, right?
Sure.
So is this something anabolic steroid use? The answer is no. I've never seen an underwriter say, people shit their pants about it, and they should. There's HIPAA laws. What I have in the chart, what you tell me, you have rights to tell me something, a priest and your lawyer, and those are very significantly supported with HIPAA. But if you say you're going to hurt yourself or someone else, I have to break HIPAA.
Okay. I
have to call the authorities, and I've actually never done it. It's never happened because doctors just work with people directly. I've never had to do that, thank God. And I can only imagine calling the police or calling someone on someone. That'd be kind of horrible. But the truth is, people come and I say, look, in my confidential charts, I put in there all the time anabolic. There's actually a code for anabolic steroid use and abuse now. I mean, the ICD-10 codes, they're called ICD-10. Yeah, so we put it in there. Or a lot of times we just kind of lightly put things in. You have hypogonadism because it doesn't even matter why. But indeed, it's in there, Ron. You are right. You have to be careful. Big Brother is out there. You got to be careful. But the answer, if I have to I'm trying to answer questions, have some fun with the question, and I'm going to answer it directly. The answer is there's no worries. There's nothing. The insurers, the underwriters, they don't know, and thank God, and they don't know, and they don't have any criteria for fingering someone adversely for anabolic androgenic steroid use. Not yet. And that doesn't mean it does. Not in my 10-year history of taking care of steroid users in a real medical practice where I do put it on paper. Yeah. I've never ever seen that to come back and bite someone.
Because let's use a much more common example. If somebody, if the doctor indicates on someone's records that they're a heavy drinker and then they get cirrhosis of the liver.
True.
Does that mean a healthcare provider can say, well, we're not going to cover that because you did this to yourself? Or a smoker gets lung cancer, will they be denied coverage because it's their fault? they did.
Ron, first of all, I love that. I love that question. But I can tell you in the law, and I'm not fully for Obamacare, but I'm pretty much a central guy right down the middle of America. And, that's by law now. And I don't know the exact details of what they can and what they cannot do, but you can't, pre-existing conditions are, they can't discriminate on those things.
Okay, that's good to know.
But it is true. But I do know this. When you go for underwriting, Ron, for health and health insurance, term life insurance and disability, they do have to factor that into your premium.
Right.
But as far as that's what it is. As far as being covered for pre-existing conditions on the HIPAA and the health, what the insurance has to cover you for primary care prevention and basic labs and basic coverage, I believe part of the law on that is that doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's a good question. Right now, if there's a healthcare attorney, he's going to be going, God, this doctor's so stupid.
Yeah, you just gave away all the secrets. Okay, doctor, next question is from Heroes Fall. He's got a lot of questions. Understanding that the doctor doesn't recommend or support the use of steroids, disclaimer, 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 based on his anecdotal experience from his patients and feedback from other doctors, which of the available steroids would be considered safest, and which would he absolutely say to stay away from based on the negative impact they have on health, heart, etc.? He doesn't really list any steroids. So, obviously testosterone is what you prescribe for HRT. So at that dose, it must be considered reasonably safe. What would you say definitely stay away from if health is your concern?
So this is a question I've had for 10 years, and here's how I deal with it. I have to say, as an expert doctor, that I can't recommend any. There's no safe one.
Yeah.
But then I go on to say, well, there's no randomized trials, there's no studies. Obviously, people use steroids to any degree, but we know that's not true, just any degree. People that use harsh steroids and heavy steroids for long periods of time, their brain pituitary shuts off, the gonads. They come to see me because they have a condition called anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism.
Yeah.
And that's there's no kidding and no joking, and that's how I work.
Right.
And of course, I when people do any kind of drug and they're suffering, any physician should help if he feels qualified and expert in that field. So with that said, apart from that, if you talk about the chemical studies and the history anecdotally of steroid use, yeah. So let's look what we have. What do we have, Ron? We have injectable steroids.
Yeah.
We have oral steroids. Again, we're going to hold apart other PEDs, right?
Yeah,
like
we're
not
talking
insulin.
Steroids. Yeah, we'd be here all day talking about all of them.
no growth hormone, no peptides, no stimulators, no clenbuterol, no insulin. All that. So old school steroids from the 1960s and 70s to today.
Yeah.
So what do you got? You got testosterone derivatives, right, Ron?
Yeah.
And then you have other drugs, a lot of veterinarian drugs. You got Test. It kind of rolls off the tongue, right, Ron?
Yeah.
You have Test EQ, Test Deca, Winstrol, Primo, and and there's all sorts of ways and gadgets and reasons for why and how you do it during season, out of season, bloated, blah, blah, blah. And it's pretty straightforward that I think testosterone itself, the derivatives, are less toxic, Ron, to the brain, to the body, even though it will, at a certain point, your brain will shut off.
Right.
But will it hurt your kidney and heart? I'm trying to get to this. It becomes dose dependent. And so testosterone derivatives are more acclimated, Ron. So it's testosterone, your body knows it, your brain knows it.
Yeah.
Now, apart from man per man differences, apart from doses and different drugs involved, men take tests. They increase the levels. Some of them a little bit high to very 55,000 level high.
Yeah. And
from hair tearing off to gynecomastia to puffiness and acne and the heart disease and all, they feel super horny. So it's obviously going in the brain. Now, if you try doing Tren by itself, you're gonna you could be really horny for a while. And that'll probably shut right that, and then Decadurable and the Nor19 and all this kind of stuff, and then Decadic and Trendic. So men start using combinations and proportions, and this is why the stuff that I want to share with doctors, this is really amazing science and art, right, in culture. So, 2 parts test, 1 part, DECA or Tren and Tren. I mean, in the end of the day, so test is going to be less, testosterone's less toxic because it's what we use for TRT.
Right.
So, and that's an injectable drug. We said before, it's not an alpha alkylated drug. It doesn't affect the liver toxically. And remember my story of the guy for the Arab Emirates, the sheik that came in?
Oh,
He
yeah.
had a huge tumor in his liver because he lived on Turinabol.
Oof.
He,
Yeah.
he lived on an oral. He thought, just because of the image of injections, he was like, I'm not doing this. I'll take a pill. It's going to be okay. And he ended up getting a huge tumor.
Wow.
It was benign. It wasn't malignant.
Yeah.
So oral agent. So with that said, so then you have injectable drugs and the veterinarian drugs and equipoise and all these. We can't hair split testosterone, low doses. When you go higher, there's more side effects. I'm trying to answer the question for the guy,
Yeah.
but without being unethical, because I don't recommend any of this. But
Right.
talking anecdotally, what I see coming in, I got guys who are living on the old school bodybuilders, Ron.
Yeah.
Old school bodybuilders and powerlifters in the 70s and 80s. What do they do? This is a good question. And some of them are still around.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk. They did testosterone.
Yep.
Sustanon 250. It used to be in the country, I guess.
Yeah.
Sux 250. Sipping and Anthate run. They would run, I don't know, 200 to 400. That's all they did. And they would take Anavar. I can say the names who, but some super famous guys that I've met, powerlifters and bodybuilders, Mr. Americas and Mr. Strongest guys in the world. They really did test and Anavar.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. And they had super great. They were monster genetics. They trained hard. They would ramp it up to the meat, to the not show, but to the meat for powerlifting.
Yeah.
And then they would come down. And no one's going to tell you they got off completely because they would try that and they would feel like garbage. So they would cruise on 1 cc a week of Sustanon 250. And then they would just go through the life, and then hopefully they wouldn't have heart disease or something else, because you can just get heart disease when you get older anyway.
Sure.
So it's the basic testosterones are going to be safer. The dose is always kept down as low as you can go. This is just anecdotal, historical. But I'm not telling you to do this.
Yeah.
And then there's Anavar. Anavar is a pretty safe. Don't look at I guess you don't want to see your liver enzymes during the moment.
Yeah.
But with a liver this is complicated. I see it all the time. Get off Anavar, guy. They get off Anavar. Liver LFTs go down. Is there sustained cumulative damage on those organs? Ron, that's all I talk about. Did they grow their LV during that time period? And did they damage the inside of their heart during that time period? And what's their genetics? So it's always the same. Don't use anything. But again, dangerous drugs. Tren is devil juice.
Devil juice.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Ron, I see. So the guys that come in that are damaged, a gram more, living on test, they go on and off, Anadrol and D-ball. Anavar is just a joke for them.
Yeah.
Or if they don't want to get puffy, in some guys, Anavar is a super strength drug.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and these are guys who are super strong. They have great genetics. They're not training like these. They train heavy. These are old school guys. And even some of the young guys are young. They're training super heavy too.
Yeah.
They're tearing off muscles off their bones. They're training they're getting so young in their 20s. We see it. It's rare, but you see it in the 20s and 30s. Pec tears, bicep tear. So, and then the dangerous drugs. I guess equipoise and Tren. I don't know the basic stuff. Primo's weak. Primo's pretty weak, and it's also like if you're going to use these steroids, the stronger ones that are more toxic give more effect. Ron, what am I going to tell you?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. So I hope I answer the guy. I want to be safe and answer the question. So that's how I answer.
I mean, from bro science, anecdotally, I've always heard Anadrol is harsh. Don't do too much Anadrol for too long. Halotestin.
Oh my God!
Pretty much just a pre-contest thing. Masteron, pretty harsh. Tren, obviously, you hear all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think just the brotherhood of bros, of gear users, I think have sort of figured it out on their own. I don't know how, but
I mean, isn't that incredible, Ron? So it's like just the safest stuff. If they're going safe, even though, Jesus, guys can get killed on just testosterone. They have bad genetics for heart disease.
Yeah.
Test. And as far as the orals go, it's the old school test and Anavar, I guess, is what I see that them doing. This is like, please, this is insane to do this. But that's what they do. And then they go beyond that, though, because the receptors and they want more. And Winstrol may look safe, but you should see what that does to the liver enzymes and the Winstrol is kind of like Anavar.
Oh, I can attest to it. Years ago, I did a contest. I think it was at the 2002 New England, and I had these 50 milligram Winstrol tabs from IP, International Pharmaceuticals.
Wow.
And toward the end, I would lost my mind, and I don't know how many I was probably on a good 200, 300 milligrams for the last 2 weeks or so. Wow. And I had a doctor's appointment scheduled for right after the show, as it turns out. Did the blood work, and I got a very alarmed phone call from my doctor at the time. He says, "You're in liver failure. We need to get you into the hospital right away." I said, "No. Here's what I didn't disclose any of that to him."
Wow.
And I said, "Let me come back in 6 weeks and we'll do it again." And I did, and my enzymes were much, much lower. So yeah.
See that? Isn't that amazing? In fact, Ron, that's incredible for you to share that.
Yeah.
So oral Winstrol. But there's Winstrol V, right? There's veterinarian injectable.
Right. This was little blue pills. I don't know. They were 50 milligrams each. It was a deal of a lifetime. So,
wow.
I'm going to skip the scar tissue question. Sorry, Heroes Fall. What do you believe is the best AI for regulating estrogen? Arimidex, Aromacin, or other?
I don't know. I can't, again, as a physician, kind of go into this stuff because aromatase inhibitors, as you know, I see them lowering HDL so much. And I've had half a dozen patients, in my opinion, in the cardiologist's opinion, it's not just the genetics and the steroid use, but it was also the AI that lowered his HDL and indirectly affects the endothelial tissue. There's studies on this, more in women that have premature cardiac disease with using aromatase inhibitors during breast cancer.
Wow.
So I mean, look, don't shoot the messenger. It is what it is. And can we go for men to women, apples to oranges? I don't know. We're all people in the end. The mechanisms are pretty similar. So Aromacin, what is it? Aromacin? I did that all. I did a video on this. Aromacin versus Arimidex. The suicide, is a suicide inhibitor versus the regular inhibitor. They're aromatase inhibitors. Letrozole is definitely strong, but in the end of the day, if you're just measuring, if you're using aromatizable steroids, say for an example, testosterone, and you're getting side effects of that from everything from the hair loss, which actually is really not from the estrogen people think it is, maybe the acne, the puffiness, gynecomastia, and the brain, their estrogen levels are so high and they're crying at movies. I'm being honest. And I say the same thing over. So in the end, and they're measuring, Doc, I want to look at my estrogen. I look at that with guys. I like to show guys, say, listen, your estrogen, I don't know. Am I going to give you a aromatase inhibitor? I do on some cases because we're on a very low dose of testosterone. They need it. And they're really converting. These are just genetic converters, aromatase guys. They're aromatase inhibitors. They're aromatase converting. That enzyme is very powerful. Mostly they're heavy.
Yeah.
They're usually fatter guys, and because it converts certainly in the capillary, the adipose tissue, but there's more variables than none of us know anything, and that's the truth.
Generally speaking, doctor, what percentage of your TRT patients require an AI with it?
In my practice, less than 10%.
Wow. Okay.
Because you know why? Because I give we found that small doses, when you modulate and you get the testosterone dose proper, I'm telling you, for most men, you don't need an aromatase inhibitor. And the aromatase inhibitor, it's not sustainable, Ron. It's going to lower every man's HDL. Wow. I don't like. That's just another. It's just why would you want to do that over the course of years and years and years? If you have gynecomastia, bitch tits, you know what I do?
Take them out.
Go see a surgeon. Yes.
Take them out.
Go see a surgeon. It's like, this is so routine. And then you can't live on, but if you're talking about steroid users during cycles and blocking after post-cycle therapy, I mean, Arimidex is the standard. That's what we all, that's the basic drug. The other drugs just have other side effects. And I don't know much more than that. I don't really want to get involved much more than that.
Okay. Boy, Heroes Fall, you have a lot of questions. His next question: what level or type of cardio does the doctor feel best helps a steroid user or TRT patient maintain heart and cardiovascular health? Steady state, HIIT, Tabata, or it doesn't matter? Just target a heart rate.
There's no study on it. I'm just going to be very clear and answer yes or no questions. Hit high intensity interval training,
Okay.
because that's the best for the heart.
Sure.
But that's, for a bodybuilder on steroids, it's going to be diet and what drugs he's on.
I don't know if you're even going to answer this one. What is some of these questions we're going to need like 10,000 disclaimers. What is the maximum safe dosage someone, such as a retired bodybuilder, could live on as TRT without massive detriment to their health? In a Muscle Insider episode of Ask the Doc, Dr. Rand McClain, another respected doctor in the bodybuilding world, stated that someone could go up to 500 milligrams a week in one of the videos as a sustained dose and most likely not see many, if any, overly negative effects. I hope I didn't misquote him, but do you agree or disagree? This is sustained, like TRT.
This is a tough question, because you can't. Again, thank you for all the disclaimers. I'm going to answer this just anecdotally. And the Dr. Rand McClain, I know of him actually, and I'm not going to say I don't put any people down. He's a bright guy, smart guy. I think it's pretty much just me and him in the world.
Yeah.
And there's one or two other guys out there. I don't want to say names for obvious reasons. That are smart, real doctor. He's a real doctor, which is good. You can't live on, but I'll get him on the show right now. Dial him up. 500 a week, bro?
Yeah.
No way. That's so. And detrimental. There's so many variables. There's bodybuilders and men living on pretty much that or even higher, less, more, and they're still walking around their 60s and 70s because they have great genetics and because they eat beautifully, perfectly. And again, they don't have hypertension, or it always goes back to all these variables. In the end of the day, a retired bodybuilder, obviously, we're going to get away all the bullshit stuff here. They're all going to need replacement testosterone, because we assume, apart from this perfect man who doesn't use steroids in professional bodybuilding, we know doesn't exist, they're all going to have anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism, so they're going to need to be replaced. Yeah. The replacement doses, it depends on who the man is. If we're talking per week, they range from about 80, 75, 80 to low end to up to about 200, Ron. You know that.
Well, that's what I'm curious. I wondered because I know it all comes down to being tested and what a certain dose is going to give a result in terms of your blood work.
That's it. And how you feel.
You've never encountered anyone who required 500 milligrams a week?
Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be very careful for this.
Sure.
Let's just say I've heard of a patient somewhere in the world that requires this much testosterone for TRT. You ready for this?
Sure.
And this came as we checked the labs, and I was just flabbergasted. He requires so testosterone cypionate, 200 milligrams per mil concentration.
Yep.
He requires 0.8, just under 1 cc every other day.
So I'm bad at math.
And his levels when I check him are like 800, and he feels perfect. And he's been there for 10 years with him. 10 years.
So he's on. I'm trying to do the math. He's on 160 milligrams.
So he's on. So let's say he's 150. So he's on about 500 a week.
Yeah. So that's an extreme example, though, right?
Yeah, but it's not given as that big bolus. It's given spread out.
Yeah.
And I like those small, and this is definitely from the anti-aging world and Dr. Rand and these guys, where they've learned years ago, giving that big bolus every 2 weeks. Believe it or not, there is doctors that give men testosterone. They give 1 cc or 2 cc's every month. And it just goes, that just, there's only one word for that. That's ignorant and dumb. It's just stupid. You're hurting someone. So giving independently a man a small dose every 3.5 to 5, 6, 7 days, that's a beautiful thing, because you're not a pincushion. You can do it forever, and your brain feels. It's all about feeling good and sustaining your heart health, so you can live to 110.
Yeah, 110. This last question last question. I don't know if you can even answer. This is another one I don't think you could answer, even if you wanted to. Similar to the above, but maximum amount on a blast or cycle without incurring massive negatives for an average male, not genetic outliers with high resistance or those with massive sensitivity. With all the talk from Boston and others whom you praised for at least being honest, not their choice amounts, what is the conservative side of the story, viewed as a doctor who trains with and works with steroid users? Yeah, maximum dose.
Ron.
I know.
I mean, you can't maximum. You know, the thing is that this brings me to, here's how I answer this one. Men that are young, that are healthy and young,
Yeah.
can do, look what they can do. And you're young, your body, you know, you're so young, you just take a 2x4 to your face, a train can barely kill you.
Sure.
So it's like, you know, your body, and then, but you'll pay for it, man. You'll pay, and hopefully you won't have a heart attack or a kidney disease or failure like a lot of guys end up, that I see anyway, coming in.
Yeah.
But, you know, because they have bad genes and the moons line up. But in the end, you're going to end up doing that, and sooner or later, you're definitely, all of these guys are going to be on testosterone the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And again, is that something that you're ready for? There's no, and PCT, I'm still trying to get the study going, you know, with someone out in Massachusetts or someone in the world that wants to do a real double-blinded study on getting men off steroids with real PCT medical. But you know what, Ron?
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Why's that?
It's just not going to work, because when you take all those steroids repeatedly for years, you know, that consumption, that total summation, there's such changes in the central nervous system that the PCT is too late. It's just too late. It just doesn't. It's I call them training wheels. So you're supplanting, you know, steroids in your brain and androgens in your brain for either something like that reflexes with a SERM and increases your own testosterone, which is Clomid, or we're giving your balls HCG, alpha analog of HCG, and then your testosterone's producing, and you feel okay. And then after that 4 to 6 month period, the guys come to me, and that's why I wrote my books on and my articles. Hey, doc, I did my PCT, but holy crap, I had to, sooner or later, I had to stop everything, doc, and just see what's left, what I have produced on my own.
And the answer was nothing.
And
left.
And Ron, I mean, it's not crazy to see that the truth of the matter is, doc, I'm here so you can help me, you know, and his testosterons are, they're low.
Yeah.
And what? I don't know. I mean, that's what we have to deal with.
Swaminator, the all-star of Ask the Doc. Swaminator's question this week. This is probably going to be the question of the week. Since the last time I posted, my best friend died of a heart attack at age 51.
Man.
He was not on TRT and had never used steroids. Non-smoker, mild drinker. He was a lifter, 6 foot, probably 240 pounds, with a family history of heart disease. He had a heart attack 3 years ago and survived. Since that time, he was closely monitored by a cardiac specialist, had a heart scan 6 months ago, took statins, blood pressure meds, massive amounts of blood thinners, baby aspirin, ate better, exercised well, and all was good. His cholesterol was so low it didn't even register on the simple finger prick test, but he still died of a heart attack while on a moderate pace hike. This rocked me. It makes me wonder if anything we do matters. Is it all genetics? Can we really do anything to prevent a heart attack if it is in our genetic blueprint? Do you believe that running the upper tier of test levels, say 1100, consistently increases your risk for a heart attack? Genetics aside, for most men, do you believe that upper range acceptable TRT levels will increase your risk of heart attack?
Wow, what a question. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear this, Swami. That's horrible, man. And, you know, men die from heart disease. People die from heart disease without steroids.
Sure.
You know, anything you do that would alter some of those factors in a direction where it's going to be adverse, you probably don't want to do that. This guy probably was a familial hypercholesterolemic patient. So he had very bad genes, and there's the family history. Yeah. And you know, he had a heart attack early, and they either bypassed him or they put, you know, the stents in, and they gave him everything, the full kitchen sink. And despite that, it appears, I don't know the story. I'm not saying Swami's not telling the right story.
Right.
I'm just saying that, you know, as a doctor to hear it, it's interesting when you hear tertiary, you know, news stories from people, and then you end up seeing the patient, if they're still alive, or the family. It could have been something completely different. But But if it's for what it looks like it is, aggressive, very early premature heart disease, probably familial hypercholesterolemia, or maybe he had an endogenous, he had an arrhythmia, and he had, in addition to that, he had what's called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and he had what's sudden cardiac death. So, and that's just, bad luck. He had all these, heart issues, but they're discreetly different. Right. So that's bad news. That's just bad genetics, and God knows what really happened. But certainly all those meds do work, Swami. All, they work. We have people living. That's why we're breaking the bank with Medicare and our government, because people are living longer and longer, and it's because of cardiac medicines. It just is, and people are trying to do their best. It's really amazing. There's no one can argue me on that. And cancer prevention and medicine is getting better, and people are trying to do the best. So, in the end, you genetics are there, but all the variables of living a healthy lifestyle and eating properly, and obviously not doing steroids. But in the end of the day, if you're on TRT, now the data is coming out. Being on testosterone replacement now looks like it's neutral. So the good news for you, Swami, is if you're on testosterone replacement, buddy, just see a good doctor. Take the damn drugs you're on. Take the statin drugs. I love all. Nail down blood pressure. Nail down cholesterol. Metformin. I'm not telling you to take it. I'm seeing your doc. I know you're on these meds, so you have a good doctor up there. I think you're in Canada. Is he Canadian?
I believe so.
I love the Canadian guys. I love the guys in Ontario and all over Canada. At least they speak our language. The guys are French Canadian. They were, they got mad at me.
Yeah, they didn't like me either. But anyway,
the guys up there in Ontario are great. And British Columbia too. And but you know what? It's a multifactorial approach using the meds. The guy had bad genetics. So you could definitely live on TRT. Men can live on if they, of course, need it. Yeah. You keep the doses, like I said, as low as you can, so you feel great, your sex is good, your heart's good, you're kicking ass, life is good, living to 110 because you're on TRT, but you're nailing down the hatches on the other. This is what I want to be known for in the world. I want to be known that if you're doing TRT, if you need it, man, God, let me give you a hug, buddy. Let me give you a hug. It's okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't need it, don't do it. But if you need it, you better nail down the hatches, and that's the blood pressure, cholesterol, sugar. And that's all I do over and over. And then you better believe that my arteries are sterilized. That's a good thing. I mean, like, I have a chemical milieu in my body that I work with doctors on to produce. I have an environment in my arteries that can't produce plaque.
Wow.
Now, that's different from that man. Something else happened. He had some poor guy had bad genetics, and so I just don't know. But don't get rocked on that. Don't get rocked on that guy. That was just bad genetics, and God knows what really happened. And then you got to live your life, bro. You got to live your life and just enjoy life, but have good medical care. I think he's doing. Swami seems like he's well cared for up there.
Yeah. I mean, free healthcare too, right?
It's not bad. Sure.
Yeah. I think it's free healthcare, but a pack of cigarettes is like $30. Anyway,
$10 here.
$10 here. That's crazy enough. Last question comes from my good friend Goon, the Goon. Hey doc, I get a checkup and blood work done every other month. My blood pressure is highish, 140/90. My doctor knows that I run gear. He prescribed me hydrochlorothiazide, 25 milligrams. And amlodipine besylate, 5 milligrams. My question is, should I avoid equipoise? I know it volumizes red blood cells.
Ron, I'm trying to laugh. Should I avoid equipoise? I mean, so equipoise, EQ. So we talked, but so I bet you this. So you know what's interesting? If I'm guessing, Goon is maybe an African American guy.
He's not. He's half Italian, half Irish. 6'5", 275.
Okay, so because if you look for the choice of you look at the choice of antihypertensives, that's a classic choice that's used for African American men because they don't do so well in ACE inhibitors. So the first thing I would say is, before I get into the gear question, let's go to the real medical question, hypertension. I'm an expert in hypertension. So there's only like 5 medicines. Most medicines we use for hypertension for a Caucasian man like that, who has just caught standard idiopathic or essential hypertension beyond diet and exercise and cutting down the sodium and and the meds he's taking, the gear may be affecting it, obviously.
Yeah.
Is we don't use, again, these are your doctors, a great doctor. There's something going on that I don't see in front of me, and this is not my recommendation. But if we just take a clinical case, we like, and ACE inhibitors in the new guidelines, the new Joint National Committee, JNC 8, and if you look for the real guidelines of hypertension, they argued when these things came out years and years ago about the position of hydrochlorothiazide. So it used to be absolutely number one. Now it's kind of a one parallel. So it can be used. Your doctors know. I don't like hydrochlorothiazide as an initial agent for young Caucasian middle-aged men. I just don't, because it's a diuretic and cause erectile dysfunction, and it could cause some cramping and stuff. It's a diuretic. It's not a loop diuretic. It's a thiazide diuretic,
Right.
and it does work. It's usually better for potentiating a medicine that you're on, like an ACE inhibitor plus this, if you need to add a drug. But that's just me. And if you read the guidelines, you'll see that's where I'm getting it from.
Yeah.
So ACE inhibitor is, I think, a better, and the calcium channel blocker, amlodipine, is a great drug, but I use that more for people that can't take, the African American guys, for an example,
Yeah.
or guys that are refractory to the other drugs. I love Bistolic, which is a cardio-selective beta blocker. Remember, that's like a Viagra-like drug. It's really true.
Yeah.
I love little baby doses if your heart rate's high, and I love the ACE inhibitors. And especially if you have a little LVH. So the question, that's I had to do the scientific and clinical medicine, and that's what that was. But your doc is good. These are medicines that work. If at the end of the day, get the blood pressure down. So equipoise we know is a heavy duty drug. It's a horse drug. I find these doctors, when I talk to them and I go, well, he goes, Doc, the doctor says to me a few weeks ago, I researched this drug and it's a veterinary drug.
That's right.
And I'm like, Doc, where you been? I saw a picture of a horse on the bottle. Is that true?
Yeah, of course.
He doesn't even believe. He couldn't even believe it.
Oh yeah.
So it says horses, dogs, and cats.
Right.
So I say, well, it's a strong drug. This drug does. So this drug is definitely a strong, what's called erythropoietic property. Which is, it increases red blood cells, definitely more than some of the other drugs. So if we look at polycythemia, which is the end result of erythropoiesis, which from androgens, and if that's leading, if your hematocrit is so elevated and you're concentrating your blood, that can lead to hypertension. So the question is, no equipoise.
Seagoon, there you go. Sorry.
I don't know, but I mean, so being honest with your doc, again, my usual stuff, disclaimers, they come out. And equipoise, should you be careful with equipoise? You should be careful with any of the drugs, but it is true. Equipoise, all the drugs can cause erythropoiesis and polycythemia. It's a genetics are incredible for Caucasian guys in sleep apnea, hereditary hemochromatosis, polycythemia vera. I have a guy, I sent a patient to someone, we're not going to go into this, and the doctor, forget the patient, here's what I want to show. The doctor, I sent this patient because I thought the red blood cells, the polycythemia was beyond like something that the testosterone itself was leading to, and I thought there was something more genetic. So I sent this patient with polycythemia to an expert hematologist somewhere in the Northeast, and here's what he said: rule out polycythemia vera. The patient was noted to have slightly elevated hematocrit, blah, 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 blah. He talks about testosterone being an etiology. He talks about other JAK2. These are genetics mutations, erythropoietin level, carboxyhemoglobin, and poisoning coming in from gas, from carbon monoxide house, and all this. It's just amazing. So this is an example to me that, see how complicated that is, the polycythemia.
Yeah.
But there's genetics. So if you have genetics and you do a little testosterone, If you have hereditary hemochromatosis, Ron, I've seen this.
Yeah.
These guys come in with freaking hematocrits in the 60s. They're going to die.
Oh, boy.
Those are the guys you see at muscle. I assume bodybuilders, powerlifters, strength, users, regular guys. But your vision is going to be blurred, massive headaches. You're going to end up getting into a hospital somewhere. They're going to draw your blood and go, oh my Lord, and then you're going to be diagnosed with two things: hereditary hemochromatosis, which should come from somewhere in the family theoretically, and they're going to say stop all the agents. They're going to figure out something sooner or later, and they're going to phlebotomize the hell out of you, and then you're going to have to be careful by going on any agent. Not just EQ, but even testosterone and any sleep apnea, any abnormality that lowers the oxygen saturation, like sleep apnea, is going to worsen. I see it every day.
Wow. Okay.
So there it is, man.
Great answer, and that's my training partner. So, Goon.
Oh boy.
No EQ for you, buddy.
Goon.
All right. Well, you've been, as always, very informative, very generous with your time and your knowledge. We appreciate it very much, Doctor. Encourage everyone out there to go check out these two websites, anabolicdoc.com and metabolicdoc.com, and pick up your copy of America on Steroids, A Time to Heal.
The book is doing great, and I'll let out something maybe in the future. There's some big documentary coming my way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can't say yet until we get it nailed down, but it's some cool. We got some big film crews coming out in April, and we'll see if their side agrees with. I don't think they will, so I'm gonna have to kind of keep it under wraps until it comes out into the real world. We got some cool stuff. We got some, and now it's because of the book. Someone read the book, and they just got blown away that they apparently never knew about the Anabolic Doc, and then there's some Hollywood people or blah, blah, blah. It's all going to be fun. Okay. I don't believe anything, Ron, until I see it.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Until I can go, until I can download it from Amazon or something, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, that's great news. Well, for the Anabolic Doc, Ask the Anabolic Doc, this has been Ron Harris and Dr. Thomas O'Connor. Thanks for watching. Check us out next time.
Thank you.